What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Planet Soccer Podcast channel here on YouTube. Dylan, good day, mate. How are you?
Doing fantastic. It feels good to be back. It's been what? Almost 2 weeks. Like we're pushing 2 weeks since
I
we
know.
for good reason. For good reason.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you and Shelby. I noticed right when you logged on, saw the ring. Got a
Oh,
flash to
yeah.
blink for us. There we go. Congrats on the wedding. And Abby and I just applied for our marriage license. So you're probably going to see another short little hiatus
There
from
you
us
go.
here in a couple of weeks when it's our turn. But congrats to you guys. But it does feel good to be back recording with you for sure after the Prem's back. Honestly, it wasn't intentional. I don't think. At least it wasn't
Yeah.
on my end. But
I know what you're going to say.
we're both getting married on international breaks. It's kind of
Yeah.
perfect. Don't have
Oh, yeah.
any interference with the Prem.
That's why we picked our date for sure.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
But yeah, feels good to be back. Newcastle's finally in the win column. Spurs are rolling, so it definitely feels good to be back recording.
It does, yeah. We got a jam-packed episode this week, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right into it. And Dylan, this might become a weekly segment for us. It's the Wilcox Weekly Jinx. You were on a roll this weekend with jinxes. I think the first one came during the Spurs game. You texted me like 4 minutes into stoppage time, and it was, I have it written down here. It was Bre with 3 H's. Y'all lost with 3 question marks. And I said, no, still like 12 minutes to play. And of course, Spurs got the comeback win versus Sheffield United, which maybe shouldn't need a comeback win in that one, but alas,
They don't ask how.
points you got to get.
They ask how many. They ask how many.
Exactly. Dylan's second jinx. This one was good. Just can't get behind a Danny Welbeck-led Brighton attack at Old Trafford. First of all, to that, Dylan, I want to say that it's a Matoma-led attack always. But
I mean,
yeah,
Ferguson wasn't starting. João Pedro wasn't starting. They didn't have Estupinian. Like, I think my initial thoughts there were kind of valid. But yeah, I look the fool, to say the least. And before we jump to today's jinx, because I also had one today, I also texted you right when I woke up Saturday morning going, holy shit, Liverpool's losing to Wolves. Like, let's go. This is going to be a great weekend. And yep, jinxed that one as well. That one was, I mean, you could see the writing on the wall. It seems like when I went back and watched the extended highlights that it was Liverpool's to lose, even though they were down at half. And then today I started typing out and compiling my thoughts for this week's episode during the Forest game, and I was super stoked on Matty Turner's first 25, 30 minutes, couple of clutch saves today against Burnley, and literally as I was typing it out, they give up. It was a great goal. It wasn't Matty Turner's fault, but
yeah, it was a screamer.
It was pretty fitting after the weekend I had on jinxes that right when I'm starting to hype up Matty Turner, he allows a goal. So yeah. I might have. I will start taking my Venmo is Dylan Wilcox 13. I'll start taking donations to text read jinxes in favor of your team if you'd like. My Venmo is open. I will start taking donations. We'll put it towards the pod. And all of the money that goes into it behind the scenes, if you so wish to donate for a jinx, because I seem to be really good at that after 4 this weekend.
Yeah, you were on point for sure. Let's go ahead and jump into that Brighton Man United game. Man, it's like Brighton's obviously just rolling right now. Man United's got issues on the field, off the field, in space, under the ocean. Anywhere there's a problem to have, Man United has a problem in that spot. So this one going in, we know Dylan said that he couldn't get behind a Welbeck-led attack. I'm pretty sure he actually got on the score sheet first.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sure did.
And, I know. Do I have sweat? Oh, yikes. It's hot in Texas, guys. I'm sorry about that.
Can vouch.
Yeah. So this one, it's, Ten Hag, it's just not working for him right now with the Man United squad he has. We've talked about their midfield. Obviously deficiencies, but just kind of the overlap they have with midfielders and how they try to do the same things, but they can't do the same things in the same game at the same time well. But this one, apparently Ten Hag changed a tactic. I didn't watch the game from a tactical perspective, really. But James Alcott came out with a video where he was talking about Ten Hag's new tactics that just aren't working. So I'm going to have to go back and watch that after we finish recording today. But Brighton's field tilt this year, which is essentially kind of the dominance of a game that teams have. It's kind of like a momentum chart, but
Can
a
vouch
little
for
bit,
that too.
yeah, a little bit more reliable. Brighton is sitting in fourth, so they're dominating everybody they play. And Man United, as we said, just has troubles everywhere. I saw Bruno Fernandes playing deep as like a DM at some points. Wan-Bissaka is now hurt, so shambles all around. Dylan, this game, you got any in-depth thoughts on it?
Not super in depth, other than yeah, they seem broken. I will say, we were all, not all, most of us, you and I certainly included, were a little skeptical on the Hoyland signing. He did have a goal that was disallowed by millimeters, if that, on a
Yeah,
ball out of play, that he did finish, when it was passed back into the center of the field. And so credit to him, I suppose. He hasn't found, I don't believe he's found the score sheet yet, at least in the goal column. Did everything he could on that play, on Saturday to find the score sheet. But I think that's still my biggest question mark, is a true goal scorer outside of Rashford. And Rashford had every opportunity imaginable to finish in this game, but just didn't. As bad as the
yeah,
midfield was, Rashford did have numerous opportunities that he just didn't finish. So it kind of is that a little bit of that same dilemma Arsenal seems to have, where they have scorers out wide, but that true number 9 goal scorer doesn't seem to quite be there right now for Man U.
yeah.
Outside of, Hoyland again, his disallowed goal. So goals
Mm-hmm.
are going to be a problem, it seems, for Man United this year. And
It started
Brighton
off the
looks
same way
fantastic.
last year, before
Mm-hmm.
Rashford really got going. I don't know if Manchester United can turn it around like Liverpool did last year, but it kind of seems like a similar start that Liverpool had last year, where they were dropping points to Brighton. You can't really call them a team they shouldn't drop points to, but
It's at home
um,
though. Like Man U at
yeah,
Old Trafford in the Premier League is typically something different. And this
yeah,
is a
and
game
they
you
have
at
to
least
because they
expect
can't win
them.
away. They can't
Right,
win
right.
away to save their lives.
You at least expect them to secure a point here against Brighton if they're really making a European or title push. And
Yeah.
they got handled in the midfield, and it's just not something that instills a lot of promise for United moving forward.
Yeah, I have in my notes here that Brighton feels like Amazon in the late 90s, early 2000s when they moved from selling books to now they're starting to sell other things on their website and really get going. I mean, they're internationally recognized now. You got kids sitting in classrooms at Michigan that hear the girl next to them is from Brighton and they automatically assume Brighton, England, but apparently there's a Brighton, Michigan. So Brighton,
Fantastic TikTok if you have
yeah,
not seen it.
great TikTok.
Fantastic. Hit so hard home for me on so many levels.
Yeah, I bet. Moving on to another team that is struggling on the field result wise, but if you look at
Ha
their
ha.
underlying numbers,
Don't want to
they
hear it.
aren't. Well, that's
Don't
what
want
I'm
to
here
hear it.
for. Chelsea. We're talking about Chelsea, folks. Mauricio Pochettino's Chelsea drew again this week. Dropped points to a team that Chelsea likely would say they shouldn't. Dylan, did you watch this game?
Just the extended highlights. I did not watch
Okay.
it in full, so I don't have a lot to say other than they still can't score, and they've
Yeah.
been shut out in back-to-back weeks against newly last year promoted sides, which
Yeah.
is
And we've
not
given Bournemouth a
something.
lot of credit on
Oh,
this pod this year, but it
duly
is still
deserved.
Bournemouth.
Yeah,
It's still Bournemouth.
duly deserved credit. But if you're a side
Yeah.
like Chelsea that has spent $1 billion in the last however many years, and
Literally. Yeah.
$500 million in the last 2 years, you can't be drawing Brighton. Or I'm
Yeah.
sorry, you can't be drawing Bournemouth. You flat. If you're looking to reestablish yourself as a European power that's going to
Get
threaten for
back to Europe
Champions
at all.
Leagues, right? You
Yeah.
cannot be drawing those games, and especially getting shut out back to back weeks against
Mhm.
relatively newly promoted sides is a huge concern for Chelsea. And then you look at the injuries. There's a 15. Their injury list could be a starting 11
Yeah,
for
like a
half
fully
of the Premier
registered
League.
team.
So like
Yeah,
I will reserve a little judgment on Pochettino at least because he's doing what he can with what he has. But
yeah,
as a club whole, as a club perspective, injuries aside, you spend the type of money they've spent recently, and it's just unacceptable. But I love it. You love it. We're here to
yeah,
love Chelsea's failures. Chelsea and Man U are two of my favorite teams to see. Actually, probably my absolute two favorite teams to see fall flat on their face. So I did not watch this one in full, though. Full disclosure, I was at a wedding in Upper Peninsula, way Upper Peninsula of Michigan this weekend. So the only match I really watched much of was Newcastle. So I won't have very many tactical thoughts or game flow thoughts. We'll leave that to you. Who I don't know if you actually did. If you did, major kudos to you. But you said you were going to try and watch every Premier League game this week. If you even hit
yeah.
half of them in full,
Oh,
kudos
I
to you.
definitely hit
Kudos to
half
you.
in full, but Tottenham had that time slot where there were like 4 other games going on at once. So, um, but I watched most of them in full. I watched this one in full, and one interesting thing that is noteworthy: Conor Gallagher captained the side, which
Is that
is
their
kind of
like
weird.
sixth? Not actually. That is that their fifth or sixth captain though this year. They've had at
I
least four. They've
Yeah,
had
it's
at
weird.
minimum four captains this year, which
Thiago
is
Silva
wild.
played. He was on the field. I mean, he would be in my mind their natural captain. Enzo Fernandez looked pretty good. His movement was good. He got subbed off pretty early in the second
I
half.
think I think he picked
Maybe
up
like
a knock. I think he picked up like a
did
minor
he?
knock. He's not like
Okay,
missing multiple weeks or anything. But yeah, he
yeah,
picked up a knock and that's why he got subbed off early. But yeah, you can add him to that list of 15 plus Chelsea
yeah,
players that are currently in the trainer's room day in and day out
yeah.
rehabbing injuries.
Their injured list has a transfer market value of probably top 10 in Europe, I would say. Um, But yeah, I mean Chelsea looked fine. They can't finish. Nicholas Jackson just isn't. It feels like I'm watching Richarlison through when I watch Nicholas Jackson a lot, and the way he's just not capitalizing on chances, getting into good positions. He just can't find the back of the net.
He feels Darwin-esque of last year.
Yeah,
Like
not as
he
much
was
hype coming in, but yes,
right, but he was
I get
supposed to
what you're
be the
saying.
guy. He was coming into a side that every other, in theory, going into the season, every other question was answered, and he's somebody that Pochettino and staff believed would fit in nicely and be able to finish, which they had zero finishing last year. And yeah, like
Yeah,
I said it in our preview and our transfer recaps, like he's going to be a really good player. He is right now a really good player, but he's not the goal scorer that a $1 billion plus team should be putting
yeah,
out there week in and week out. And I did kind of question that in the transfer market. And it's kind of come to fruition. We're only 5 weeks in. He's only 5 weeks into playing in the Premier League. But it is a massive question mark. Maybe it's a question mark they're able to address in January. I don't know. Maybe it's a situation where he can fill in and fit in a little bit better once Pochettino kind of gets into him a little bit, because I think this is I was a believer in Thomas. I was not a believer in the most recent manager for Chelsea whatsoever. But I am even more so a believer in Pochettino. I do think he will get things turned around, but they are certainly starting slow, especially in the goal scoring front.
yeah. Speaking of Pochettino and the opposite of starting slow, we're going to talk about Tottenham again.
We are,
Um,
or
well,
you
yeah,
are.
I mean, you had them on your list too.
I did. I did.
So overall, my thoughts on this week in general is like it was an exciting week, but most of it went chalk. This was by far the most exciting game of the week. Shouldn't have been, but it was. Tottenham getting the winner in the like +8 and +10 minutes of stoppage time. Richarlison finally getting his head on one, putting it in the back of the net, and then also finding Kulusevski on the assist, which I heard the greatest. I don't know if you saw my tweet, Dylan. Yeah, there's the Richarlison celebration. Luka Doncic and Dejan Kulusevski, both just white, shouldn't be athletic, shouldn't be able to get past you and do what they can
No, no, no,
do.
no, 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 no. Hold on.
Okay.
I am not comparing Dejan Kulusevski to Luka Doncic right now. We're not
Not the
doing that.
qual not no no no
It's
no
like
no
the
not
LeBron James of soccer
no
comp right
no no
there.
no 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 not the quality of not the star power, anything like that. But I look at Dejan Kulusevski and he should not be able to beat an athletic fullback
Yeah,
in the Premier League.
to be fair, he does look like he's playing a Sunday League in Texas. Like you looking at him physically, he looks like Sunday League in Texas used to play college soccer, but
Yeah.
is washed up, and he is performing at a decently high clip in the Premier League. So all right.
And
I
again,
guess I
I'm
can
not
give that
talking.
to
I'm
you.
not talking performance at all. Just like style of the way they play their sport. It is so white guy can't jump sort of deal. I just thought it was from my guy Todd on the Tottenham Depot. Just physically, it's a good comp. I'm not saying that Dejan Kulusevski is
All right.
one
I'll
of the
let it
best players
slide.
in the world,
I'll let
but
it slide.
the way they play their sport.
I'll give it to you. I'll
Um,
give it to you.
so going into Tottenham, I mean the biggest difference that I mean there's a laundry list of differences between last year and this year, but it's really the way they play on the front foot, and that's nothing new. It's been there are 1,000 YouTube videos out there that you can go and look at. But I referenced field tilt earlier. It's kind of the momentum and control. It's a balance of momentum and control you have in certain parts of the field to where you control certain parts of the field. So essentially, like if you're at 70%, you control 70% of the pitch convincingly throughout the match. Tottenham is averaging 77.7 field tilt right now. That's tops in the league. And last year, Man City led the league at 71.26%. Last year, Tottenham's field tilt was 43.79%. So they did not even have advantage in half of the pitch last year. Dylan, I'll put it up on this video. There's an overlay of where Tottenham's midfielders' heat maps are.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfectly symmetrical. They're doing it, it's so weird because Postecoglou's system is so it looks so free flowing, but it's also so rigid. I mean, you go look at Udogi, you look at Poros, any of the midfielders, they know where they're supposed to be, but it's just so free to be offensive. It looks even undisciplined at times, or just like Sunday league football. But I mean, it's not Sunday American football like pub English football. Dylan, you were very staunch last year about saying you did not like watching Tottenham. You weren't the only reason you would watch them is because I was a fan and you would support your friends. But this year they are appointment television. I know it was Sheffield's, and it was at home, but these are matches that Spursy a lot of the time, and they did not this time. So what are you seeing from an outside perspective on Tottenham? And why do they, if they do scare you to play, why do they scare you to play?
I mean, literally everything you just said. Ange Ball is extremely fun to watch because it is so, from an outsider's perspective, somebody who doesn't watch every single minute of all of their games, doesn't necessarily watch through the same tactical lens that you do. It is so fun and free flowing and creative. You made a slightly out there comparison, so I'm going to do the same. It feels like, I can't believe I'm going to say this. It feels Brazil at its best at times. It's free flowing,
Yeah.
a lot of rotational play,
a lot of joy.
A lot of fun and joy. There was I saw, I think you may have even retweeted it, or one of your Tottenham buddies that I follow, or re-xed it, whatever the heck you call that now. There was a photo after I think it was after the second goal. There were 6 players in this photo celebrating the goal. Not one of them was over the age of 24. And like, you just get that feeling and that vibe and that joy and that passion and that excitement and that drive. And you can feel it when you watch them play. And it feels so, I don't want to say careless because that sounds irresponsible, but so carefree. So we know we are in the right system. We believe in our system, and we're going to play with each other, for each other, and so free flowing. And it reminds me a lot of Newcastle not necessarily the play style per se, but that team cohesion and that excitement around the club. A lot of Newcastle in the last 3 or 4 months last year when nobody wanted to play Newcastle. I do feel like Spurs are kind of doing that same thing in the first half of this year so far. And I made the funny comparison, I think 2 or 3 weeks in, and you hated it, that Man U is Spursing the hell out of this season. It feels like Man U is Spursing the hell out of this season, and Spurs is Newcastling the hell out of this season right now, in
Yeah.
comparison to that second half of last year. It is a lot of fun to watch. It's probably the most appointment television for me, partially because of that youth. You guys aren't going to dominate score lines very often, I don't think, because there will be some of those youthful mistakes. So there will be close matches like this one where you're down 1-0 to Sheffield and manage to bag two in stoppage time, albeit 12 minutes. I don't know how that happened. 12 minutes of stoppage time. But you got 12
Sheffield's
minutes.
goalkeeper happens.
You did everything you could with the 12 minutes, so kudos to Spurs. But it does feel like that kind of carefree, fun-loving football, and football as it's supposed to be played at the highest level. It's super enjoyable. I'm not saying this to dig into you at all. I really would love to see you guys play Champions League or some sort of European competition this year just to see it, because I think it is a style we talk about in the past. Sometimes English style doesn't necessarily translate perfectly to European football very often. I think it is a style that would translate fantastically to European football. So that's a whole lot of excitement. We were talking today off air. Five clubs will be playing Champions League next year, and I think at this point Spurs should and will be one of them, and I think that'll be super exciting to see this Ange Ball Spurs on the European stage. Will be super exciting in the years to come.
Yeah. Last thing on Tottenham, you mentioned the ages. I'm just going to give them to you. 25, 26. Sonny is the outlier at 31. 23, 24, 22, 22, 20, 21, and 24 was the starting lineup from Saturday. And then 26, which is Vicario in goal. So
Which
26 is like it's like
18
and
goalkeeper.
goalkeeper. Yeah. So very, very fun times at Tottenham. There are talks within the circle, kind of the Twitter circle at Tottenham, where like when we do lose two matches in a row or what have you, how will the feeling be different than it was under Conte? And I think the feeling is if we play well and we play fun, and if we lose 2-1 to Arsenal at the Emirates next week, then it is what it is, and we move on. You can drop points here and there, but the football is fun.
Yeah,
And Ange
I,
is hopefully here to stay.
I know looking at the table right now, 5 weeks in, Spurs fans would love to consider pushing for the title. I don't not here to say that that's going to happen. Like, it's just too young of a side. You will drop silly points at times because it's a young side, but it's such an exciting. You will. It's such.
Could they?
Clip this, save it on your
But could they?
desktop, and throw it out
But
there
could they?
later. Yeah, they won't. They won't. City and Arsenal are both have points that are a little shaky, but I just don't think the experience is quite there yet to truly compete for a Premier League championship. I do think it's certainly a side that could win a domestic cup. I definitely think it's a side that could and should finish top five. So there's plenty to be excited about. I would prefer to be a Spurs fan over a Liverpool fan or Man U fan, maybe an Arsenal fan. Like, as far as like team building and 5 year plan right now. But I would argue I would be more excited to be than a Man U, Man City. Maybe you still have Pep at City or Liverpool or Chelsea. Like, there is a lot to be excited about at Spurs right now. I don't think they're quite ready to push just based on age, but I think it's certainly a side that could very well win a domestic trophy and absolutely should be qualifying for Europe next year, especially with that fifth slot.
Agreed. Let's talk about a European team, and one that is very much not a European team real fast, and that's Arsenal and Everton. Kind of just a stinker of a game.
Fest.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
Brutal.
Arsenal did dominate. They didn't dominate. I think they hit the post twice, or they hit the post once and the bar once, and then just generally overall, Chelsea and Arsenal to me, this is kind of like the Luka Dejan Kulusevski comparison. They're obviously not the same right now, but a lot of their weaknesses feel
Are
the
the same.
exact same.
Exactly.
Yes.
Arsenal is a better version of Chelsea.
Yeah, much
but
better.
they have
Yeah.
a lot of the same points of need, areas of concern, especially when you compare them to the other top big six, big seven, if you want to include big eight. Hell, I'm ready to call it the big eight. Brighton deserves
Yes, absolutely.
Brighton deserves every bit of it. And we're getting close to big nine. I believe in Villa highly. Like, that's what I love about this Premier League season is that race for the title. I do think it is City's to lose, but that race for those other 4 spots in Europe is going to be so much fun with what,
more than 4 spots in Europe.
7 or 8 other teams pushing for Champions League. It's going to be an absolutely phenomenal season. But yeah, no, I agree. I think there are a lot of question marks. That's why I'm 5 weeks in. It seems silly to crown champions, and I'm not quite ready to do that. But I think there are strong points of concern for Arsenal if they are really going to try and push for the title again this year. And I think that the number one is that finishing from the number 9 position. I was on record last year saying I thought Jesus was the perfect signing for them because it was good value, not having to go out and spend $100 million on a world-class
James
striker.
Madison value, but
no,
it was good value.
Not James Madison. Here we go. Go ahead. No, it wasn't. It wasn't James Madison value, but at the time, honestly, I thought Jesus was going to fit into this Arsenal side, like Madison has different positions, but quality and performance and output wise, thought he was going to fit in similar to what Madison has, and he just hasn't.
Honestly, kind of the same positions with where Jesus plays on the field and how he plays is not really a striker. But yes, your point's absolutely taken.
Yeah, I was really, really high on the signing, but it feels like they really need to go out and if they really want to compete this year for a deep Champions League run or a Premier League title push. I feel like they need to go out and spend money on a top end striker. Now, one thing I've seen floated around.
I don't think they should. Just keep it the way it is.
I agree that I you say that because you don't want them to get great.
Yeah.
I don't think they should necessarily go splash $100 million or anything like that. But I do think they're in a position where if you go sign a $50-60 million striker and move on from Nketiah, which I like Nketiah, but it's not what they need as their reserve striker.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah. Jesus is the perfect reserve striker for them now. Wild name, going to float out there. I can't remember his suspension length, so it might not fully make sense, but I would be terrified of Ivan Toney in this Arsenal side. That would be horrifying to face. I can't remember his full suspension term. I don't remember when he's back.
80 games whenever it was kicked off.
It is through the rest of this year. So
I believe it was either 60 or 80.
Either way, he's out for this whole season, which is what I thought. But that's a guy I would love, if I were an Arsenal fan, to see that be the kind of move they make in the summer. Because I think he fits the profile really well. He's essentially an Nketiah who will score every chance he gets. Similar profile in a way. I like Nketiah. I like Jesus. But if you're really trying to be a top 10 European side, those are not your 2 strikers. And that's the biggest concern right now, in my opinion, for Arsenal. Very sound side. Plenty of goal scoring elsewhere with Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli. But to be a true
Trossard,
who got the goal this weekend, to be a true major threat in Europe or in the Premier League, you do at this point in time need an elite number 9, if you will, and they just don't have that right now.
Yeah. Last shout out on this episode goes to our Vincent Company Burnleys.
Finally.
I don't know what's their Spurs tune. Do they have a
I don't know.
You know what Burnley is? I don't know. Let us know in the comments what their nickname is. Vincent Company, though, I'm starting to have a problem with your hats. I thought it was cool at first, but it's time to ditch the hat. Just let the baldness flow. Just
kind of a fan of the suit jacket t-shirt hat look.
I was.
It's a little different. But you got to be winning a lot to pull it off.
Yes,
and this is his first
to pull that off. Yeah. Lots of goings on in the Premier League right now. Just off of an international break, things are still chugging along. We're still getting a full picture of what the season is going to look like. We have plenty of other talking points that just didn't fit into this episode.
Callum Wilson being an average 20 goal scorer again. We can talk about that next time.
Fulham, I think, is hanging on by a thread. I think if Marco Silva doesn't get what he wants in January, they're going to be in big trouble. But yeah, we'll talk about that some other time. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Match Week 5. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, and all of that. And we'll talk to y'all next time. Champions League week. Peace out.